What if revenge doesn't shout? It waits and whispers. What if an old whipping post, long forgotten in the Mississippi woods, could tell its story? For men. One night. No names, no justice, only silence, and a single photo that still troubles historians today. What really happened on that lost plantation? And why did no one ever speak of it again? If you want to uncover true stories that reveal hidden truths and forgotten history, subscribe now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what comes next. In 1852, deep in the Mississippi Delta, the air was thick and heavy, carrying the smell of tobacco, sweat, and iron. Cotton fields stretched endlessly, bordered by old, bare trees. This was Belle Plantation, a place untouched by progress, where time seemed frozen between sunrise and the sound of the whip. Here, life was ruled by silence and control. Dozens of enslaved men and women worked in the fields, their skin marked by sun and scars. Watching over them was Ellison Gray, tall, weathered, and feared. He was not just an overseer, he was judge, enforcer, and executioner. His whip, braided from cowhide and stained with blood, was called Mercy. He used the name cruelly, mocking those he punished. On this land, no law was greater than his will. Under his control, the plantation ran like a tightened rope, every lash deepening fear and obedience. Yet behind the quiet obedience, something else was growing. A silence filled not with surrender, but with memory and anger. It moved in secret glances, in songs sung softly at dusk, in hands that remembered every scar. Among the enslaved were 4 men whose lives were about to intertwine. Elijah, once a blacksmith in Virginia, carried strength in his arms and defiance in his eyes. Samuel, quiet and thoughtful, kept torn pages of a prayer book hidden beneath the floorboards. Isaac, a runaway once caught and broken, walked with a limp but never forgot. And Jonah, the youngest, carried a fire inside him, anger too strong to hide. They didn't speak of rebellion, not yet. But at night, when Gray stumbled drunk back to his quarters, they remembered every cruelty. In that shared pain, something ancient began to awaken, not hope, which had long since died, but vengeance. As the summer's heat reached its peak, a strange tension filled the air. Everything looked the same, cotton still gathered, the whip still cracked, yet beneath the surface, something unseen was forming. The 4 men met quietly, never together for long. A look at the water trough. A few words before supper. A silent nod during prayer. Every thought was dangerous. A single suspicion could mean death. But they no longer needed words. Pain had given them a language of their own. Elijah led with calm determination. "Only once," he whispered, "one night, then it's done." Samuel nodded, clutching his worn psalter. "Blood cries out from the ground," he said. "Maybe tonight it'll be heard." Isaac's eyes drifted toward the woods, the place he once ran. And Jonah, fierce and unshaken, spoke the words none had dared. "We take him to the post," he said. "The same one. And he learns." Their plan had no name, only purpose. They knew Gray's patterns, his pride, his nightly drinking alone. As the others pretended to sleep, they waited and watched. The guards were lazy, the night moonless. The locks on the stable, old, weak, familiar. And beneath the dark Mississippi sky, vengeance prepared to rise. They studied every shadow, every creaking board, every path that could give them away. Each man carried his own scars from that post. Elijah's back still bore the marks of Gray's whip from a single winter punishment. Samuel had been beaten for daring to rest. Isaac walked with a limp, the cost of a whipping that should have killed him. And Jonah had watched his brother die for stealing a piece of stale bread. What they planned wasn't rebellion. It wasn't escape. It was personal, quiet, exact, and deeply human. It wasn't about justice or balance. It was a memory made real. They chose their night carefully, after the 3rd full moon of harvest, a Friday, when Gray drank the most and the big house was distracted. There would be no rain, no bright moon, nothing to reveal them, only darkness, silence, and 4 men moving like shadows. When the sun sank behind the moss-covered trees and the frogs began their chorus, the 4 didn't pray. They gathered quietly, their rough hands steady, their eyes focused. For the first time in years, they breathed freely. The waiting was over. Vengeance was awake. It began at midnight. Even the insects seemed to fall silent, as if the land itself held its breath. The overseer's cabin stood apart, a crooked, dimly lit structure that smelled of whiskey and rot. Inside, Ellison Gray sat alone, a bottle in one hand, his whip resting across his lap like a prized possession. Outside, the night moved slow. Elijah led, barefoot and steady. Isaac followed, careful not to stumble. Samuel and Jonah flanked from opposite sides, silent and sure. They had oiled the hinges weeks earlier. The door opened without a sound. Gray looked up, eyes blurry, ready to curse. He never finished the word. Elijah struck first. The broken handle of a hoe slammed against his skull. Gray dropped to his knees, dazed but conscious. Jonah looped the whip around his throat, tightening it as Samuel bound his hands with soaked rope that would harden as it dried. They said nothing. Gray struggled, but drunken strength couldn't save him now. Isaac pressed a knee into his back, forcing the air from his chest in a wheeze that almost sounded like a prayer. They dragged him just far enough, to the post. The same one. The same wood, dark with years of blood. No one had counted the bodies it had broken. Until now. They tied him there, arms stretched, shirt torn, head hanging. When the clouds parted, a pale moon cast its light across the clearing. Jonah lifted a whip, not Gray's, but one they had made themselves. Elijah gave a slow nod. The first strike came calm, not wild. Each lash followed a rhythm, steady, deliberate, shaped by memory, not rage. It echoed the beat of old work songs, turned now into something darker. Gray screamed. Samuel closed his eyes. Isaac stared, unflinching. Jonah's arms swung with perfect control. Elijah counted, not numbers, but names. Every soul who had suffered on that post. There was no joy, no celebration, only a heavy silence between the cracks of each blow. When it was over, Gray still breathed, barely. Enough to remember. Enough to talk if he dared. The four men slipped away into the dark, unseen, unheard. The night swallowed their steps. The post stood still. Vengeance had spoken. By morning, the sun rose warm and golden, as if nothing had happened. Dew shimmered across the cotton fields, birds sang their usual songs. But something had changed. Gray did not come for inspection. Whispers spread quietly among the workers, soft, uncertain, alive. No one spoke that morning, but everyone saw it. Fresh blood darkened the ground beneath the old post. Later, 2 white men from the big house found Ellison Gray slumped there, barely conscious. His back was torn open, his shirt dried and stuck to the wounds. His whip was gone. His eyes were wide with terror, muttering about shadows, devils, and judgment. There was no investigation. No questions asked. No guards were called. The owners feared the story more than the act itself. If word spread, if people believed vengeance was possible, everything could unravel. So they buried the truth. The official story was simple. Gray had fallen drunk and hurt himself. Nothing more. Everyone knew better. But silence was survival. The lie became a pact, unspoken but shared. The truth belonged only to those who had carried it out. Not long after, the 4 men's lives changed. Jonah vanished one night without a trace. Some said he escaped, others whispered he was taken. Elijah was sold north a week later. Samuel was reassigned to the main house, closer to danger but farther from the post. Isaac stayed in the fields, limping row by row, his eyes quieter than before. They never met again, but something in them, and in everyone around them, had shifted. The overseers kept their distance. The lashings grew fewer. Songs returned to the fields, not of joy or sorrow, but of warning. Measured, steady. Gray never recovered. He walked slowly, spoke little, and avoided even other white men. Soon they sent him away to Vicksburg to heal. He never came back. The post remained untouched. No one went near it. Even the birds stayed clear. Time passed. Seasons turned. The war would come, bringing change, but the first crack in the system had already formed here, long before soldiers arrived. Not a revolt, not yet, just a memory carved into the wood, into the earth, into silence. Almost 70 years later, in the spring of 1920, a young researcher named Robert C. Dunn visited the ruins of Belle-Île. He carried a camera and notebook, sent to record what was left of old plantations. The land was overgrown. The big house had collapsed and vines choked the quarters. As Dunn wandered through, noting measurements and sketches, he came across what looked like a tree stump. But when he looked closer, he saw grooves, deep, deliberate, symmetrical. Something about it made him uneasy. He took a photo. Inside the crumbling overseer's cabin, he discovered something else, a small, tattered journal hidden beneath a false floorboard. Most pages were blank, but near the middle, shaky handwriting filled a few lines. For shadows took me. Don't know how, don't know why. Heard the whip fall, not mine. Each stroke a voice. I saw them. I saw them all. The final pages dissolved into rambling sketches and scattered words. At the end, one phrase repeated 3 times. The ground remembers. Dunn filed the photograph and transcript with the local archives, where they were labeled and forgotten. In the 1980s, during a reorganization, the journal disappeared. Only the photo survived, a sepia image of a lone wooden post standing in the brush. No marker, no monument, just silence caught on film. Those who've seen the photo say something about it feels wrong. Not frightening, not sad, just wrong. As if the post is aware. As if it's waiting. Today, Belle-Île no longer exists, sold, divided, and buried beneath pavement and vines. Yet, locals say that on quiet, moonlit nights, if you stop along the old road where the post once stood, you can still hear it, faint, steady, rhythmic. Like footsteps. Like counting. Like memory, refusing to fade.